Am I the a-hole for moving out after my dad forced me to share a room with 3 toddlers? I'm 16F. My parents split up before I was born. Custody is I live with my dad most of the time, and my mom every other weekend, plus random staying with her if I want. Recently, my dad got engaged to Hannah, and she and her kids are moving in. Hannah's kids' ages are 9, 7, 2, 2, 2. She is widowed, so they live with her full-time. This made room arrangements a bit awkward, since there's only 3 kids' bedrooms to go around. Dad and Hannah talked it over last night without consulting anybody, and Hannah came over this morning to announce with my dad what they decided. Apparently, they want 9 and 7 to each have their own rooms, and me to share with the triplets because my room is significantly bigger than the others, and I don't stay there full time. The moment the words left Hannah's mouth, the air in the kitchen felt heavy. I looked at my dad, expecting him to give me a wink or some sign that this was a joke, but he just stood there with his arms crossed, nodding along like they had just suggested a perfectly normal weekend plan. I looked around the room I've eaten breakfast in every day for years, and suddenly felt like a stranger. I said their plan was stupid. They wanted me to share with 3 toddlers. I didn't even mean to be harsh, but the sheer lack of logic hit me like a physical weight. I'm a junior in high school. I have piles of textbooks, a laptop, and a desk that I actually use for hours every night. I have a skincare routine, clothes that aren't meant to be handled by sticky fingers, and a desperate need for a full night's sleep. They were asking me to move into a nursery. They said they didn't want me to move, but it was the biggest room, so other people should share. Hannah started talking about the square footage. She actually had a piece of paper where she had roughly sketched out the dimensions of my room. She pointed to a corner near my window, where my reading chair currently sits, and said, "We can fit 2 cribs here, and the third one can go against the far wall by your closet." My closet? I asked. Where's my stuff supposed to go if the wall is blocked by a crib? Hannah just smiled that tight, patient smile. "We can get some plastic bins for under your bed, or maybe move some of your off-season clothes to the garage. We're all going to have to make sacrifices to make this a home, sweetie." The sweetie felt like a slap. I looked at my dad. "Dad, you cannot be serious. 3 toddlers. If one wakes up, they all wake up. If they're in my room, I'm basically a live-in nanny. How am I supposed to study for my SATs? How am I supposed to have a friend over for a movie? I'll be living in a daycare." I said I didn't care if I switched rooms, because the more logical move would have been the triplets in the big room, 7 and 9 share, and I get my own. I said I'd take the smallest one until I move out. It was a fair trade. I was literally offering to move into the tiny room that barely fits a twin bed, just so I could have a door that locks. I was offering to pack up my entire life and downsize just for the sake of peace. They said it would be more work to move my things to another room, and their idea was more practical. They kept using that word, practical. It's practical for them because they don't have to carry heavy dressers down the hall. It's practical because Hannah doesn't want her older kids to have to share a room after all they've been through. But it wasn't practical for me. Then asked why I was so pressed since I don't even live here full time. That sentence felt like a door slamming in my face. My dad was the one who said it. My dad, who's always told me that this is my home, no matter where I spent my weekends. Hearing him categorize my presence as part-time made my stomach turn. It was like I was being demoted from a daughter to a recurring guest. I said not staying in the room 4 days a month was a sorry excuse to land me with a bunch of toddlers, and if they seriously planned on doing it to me, I'd make the custody arrangement change, and I'd stay with mom for the most part. I know she doesn't mind because both of them remind me I could stay with her whenever I wanted. The kitchen went dead silent. My dad's face turned a shade of red I've never seen before. He looked shocked, like I'd just threatened to burn the house down. Hannah's eyes immediately welled up with tears. She started shaking her head, looking at the floor. "I can't believe you would say that," my dad whispered. "After everything I've done to keep things stable for you, you're going to hold custody over my head because you don't want to share a room?" "It's not about sharing a room, Dad," I said, my voice shaking now. "It's about having a place where I belong. If you put 3 babies in my room, it's not my room anymore. It's their nursery, and I'm just sleeping in it. If I'm only here part-time anyway, why does it matter if I just go to mom's?" This made Hannah cry because she just wants her family to blend together nicely, and apparently I was ruining her plans. She actually sat down at the table and put her face in her hands. "I just wanted the kids to feel like they had a sister," she sobbed. "I thought this would bring us all closer. I didn't realize you resented us so much." "I don't resent you," I yelled, finally losing my cool. "I just want to be able to sleep. I want to be able to do my homework without a 2-year-old screaming next to my ear. How is that a blended family? You're just taking my space because it's easier for you." This made Dad mad at me, and am not allowed to talk to Hannah until she forgives me. He told me to go to my room and think about my attitude. He said I was being cruel to a woman who has lost so much and was trying to build a new life for her children. He made it sound like my desire for a private bedroom was a personal attack on Hannah's deceased husband and her struggling kids. I went to my room and sat on my bed. I looked at my desk, my bookshelves, the posters I spent hours leveling perfectly. I thought about the triplets. I thought about the smell of diapers and the sound of crying and the toys that would inevitably end up under my feet. I thought about my dad, who I thought was my best friend, telling me I don't really live here full-time. A few hours later, I heard them in the hallway. They were measuring things again. I heard the metal tape measure thwack against my door frame. They weren't even waiting for the forgiveness conversation. They were already moving forward with a plan like my opinion didn't matter at all. I checked my phone and saw a text from my mom asking if I wanted her to pick me up early this weekend. I haven't answered yet. Part of me wants to pack a bag and just leave right now, but the other part of me is devastated that it's come to this. My dad hasn't checked on me. He's in the living room with Hannah, probably comforting her while she cries about how mean I am. I didn't know this meant so much to them, but I'm still saying I'll stay with mom longer if I have to share with toddlers, but my dad made me feel a bit guilty. So, am I the a-hole? Update. I'm at my mom's house at least for the weekend while the adults try to work things out, but honestly it already feels way calmer here than it did at my dad's. My mom said I was welcome to live with her full-time, and if I really wanted we could change the custody agreement. Smiley face. The first night here was weird because I kept expecting somebody to wake me up or start another argument. At my dad's house things had gotten really tense after the room conversation. Even before I left for the weekend, the whole atmosphere felt awkward. My dad was annoyed at me. Hannah kept acting hurt every time she looked at me, and the older kids could obviously tell something was going on even if nobody explained it to them directly. My mom picked me up after everything blew up, and she could tell immediately I had been crying earlier because my face was still puffy. She didn't really push me to talk right away, though. She just got me food on the way home and let me rant whenever I felt like it. Honestly, I think that helped more than anything because at my dad's house every conversation turned into some lecture about family sacrifice and adjusting. The weird thing is I never even said I refused to move rooms. I said I didn't want to share with 3 toddlers. There's a difference. I would have taken the smallest room in the house if it meant privacy. That's the part making me the most frustrated because everyone keeps acting like I demanded the giant room for myself forever when I literally offered solutions. My mom thought the whole arrangement sounded ridiculous immediately. Not in a dramatic, your dad is evil way or anything, but she genuinely didn't understand how they landed on that idea first. Especially because apparently the triplets already share a room at their current house without problems. That became a huge point during the first conversation between my parents after I got here. I guess my dad called her later that night because he was angry I threatened to stay with her more permanently. According to my mom, the call started out calm and then turned into an argument once he started saying I was being manipulative. My mom basically told him that threatening a teenager's privacy and comfort wasn't exactly a great way to make them want to stay in your house. Apparently, he kept insisting the room was the only practical solution, and my mom pointed out that making 2 elementary school kids share a room made more sense than putting a 16-year-old girl in with toddlers who wake up crying at night. My dad got mad because he thinks everyone is ganging up on him now. I talked to him myself the next day, and it honestly just made me feel worse. At first he sounded normal and asked how I was doing. Then he started saying he didn't appreciate me, running away, instead of working things out maturely. I asked him what part of their plan was supposed to work for me long term, because nobody had answered that yet. He said lots of siblings share rooms. I said siblings don't usually have a 16-year age gap, while one of them still wears diapers. That made him irritated almost immediately. Then he started talking about how hard things have been for Hannah after losing her husband, and how stressful moving 5 kids into a new house already is. I told him I understood that part, but I didn't get why that meant my comfort automatically became less important than everybody else's. The conversation kind of died after that. I don't think he expected me to actually stand my ground this much. Usually when we argued growing up, I'd eventually give in because I hated conflict. This time I didn't because the more I thought about it, the more unfair the whole thing sounded. The worst part is seeing people slowly move into my space already. My dad sent me pictures asking which boxes were mine because apparently they started packing some of my stuff to make room temporarily. Seeing toddler beds sitting in what used to be my room honestly made my stomach drop a little. It felt less like they were trying to include me in a new family and more like they were slowly replacing me inside the house. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's genuinely how it felt seeing everything rearranged so fast. The older kids are actually fine though. A lot of people asked if I hated them and I don't. They're kids. None of this is their fault. The 9-year-old actually texted me asking if I was coming back because she wanted to show me a bracelet she made. That made me feel awful, honestly, because she has no idea why everything is tense right now. The triplets are chaotic, but they're also just toddlers. Loud, sticky, constantly moving toddlers. Which is exactly why I didn't want to sleep in the same room as them. My mom has been way more understanding than I expected. She cleaned out her office, so I'd have somewhere to stay comfortably if I wanted. It's smaller than my room at my dad's house, but honestly I don't even care, because at least it's quiet. I slept almost 11 hours my second night here. That probably says enough by itself. School has been awkward because apparently my dad already told some relatives what happened, and now random family members are texting me opinions. Most of them are older and think I should compromise because family is important. One of my aunts told me I should be grateful my dad wants me around at all because some divorced parents stop caring once they remarry. That one actually upset me more than I expected. Because my dad did care before this. That's the part making everything hurt more. Before Hannah and the kids moved in, my dad and I were close. We watched movies together constantly, went out for food all the time, and had actual routines. Now, every conversation feels tense before it even starts. And honestly, Hannah definitely doesn't like me anymore after all this. She hasn't said anything directly rude, but every text she sends feels passive-aggressive. Things like, "I hope eventually you'll be ready to become part of this family." Or, "The younger children are having a hard time understanding why you left." That wording annoys me because I didn't leave out of nowhere. I reacted to something they decided. At one point, my mom actually asked me if I wanted her to step in more directly and tell my dad no to the room arrangement altogether. I told her not yet, because part of me still hoped they'd come to their senses on their own. Apparently, that was optimistic. Still though, thank you for all the replies. I really wasn't expecting this to blow up as much as it did, lol. Update 2, because somehow I'm still getting responses to this. Everyone talked, but Dad and Hannah are staying with their decision, and I've decided to move to my mom's long term, and we're gonna switch the custody around, so I'll only see my dad every other weekend. And I'm just gonna sleep on the couch when I'm there. Obviously nothing is set yet, but that's what we're gonna do. And thanks everyone for being so nice, haha. Update 3 1 year later. I still get messages here. I just found this account again, haha, so I thought I'd update whoever sees this, lol. A lot changed over the last year, honestly. I still live with my mom full-time, and at this point it just feels normal now. The room she cleared out for me stopped feeling temporary months ago. We painted it dark green eventually, I got new furniture for my birthday, and it actually feels like my room instead of somewhere I'm borrowing. Things with my dad never really went back to normal though. For a while after the custody change became official, he still tried scheduling regular weekends, but most of them ended up awkward or stressful. The house is just constantly chaotic now. 5 kids already felt loud and crowded before. After everyone fully settled in, it somehow got even more intense. The triplets are older now, obviously, but they still move like a tiny destructive swarm. Every visit felt exhausting. The couch arrangement never changed either. Sometimes my dad would offer his office floor with an air mattress if he was working overnight, but honestly neither option felt comfortable. I always felt temporary there, like someone visiting distant relatives instead of staying at a parent's house. Hannah and I definitely don't get along anymore. At first she tried being fake polite after I moved out, but eventually even that stopped. She doesn't openly start arguments with me or anything because my dad hates conflict, but it's obvious she'd rather I wasn't there. A lot of it comes out in small ways, like making family plans and forgetting to mention them to me until last minute, or introducing me to people as Dad's daughter from his first marriage instead of just his daughter. One Thanksgiving, she actually made a joke about how peaceful mornings are now that everyone has their own proper space. Even my dad looked uncomfortable after she said it. The thing is, I don't even really fight back anymore because I barely see them. At this point, I usually only go over during holidays or birthdays. Sometimes my dad and I get lunch together alone, which is honestly way less awkward than visiting the house itself. Those are usually the only times conversations feel even remotely normal now. He looks exhausted most of the time though. Not miserable exactly, just permanently tired. I think raising 5 younger kids full-time hit him harder than he expected. Especially the triplets. The house always feels loud and cluttered now. There are toys in every room, laundry baskets everywhere, somebody crying, cartoons blasting, sticky fingerprints on everything. It honestly feels less like a family home and more like surviving inside a daycare center. The older kids changed a lot too. The 7 and 9-year-old are now 8 and 10, and honestly they seem closer than before, because guess what? They share a room now. Yep. The exact arrangement I suggested originally. I found that out around 3 months ago, during Christmas dinner. Apparently Hannah got pregnant again. When my dad first told me over the phone, he sounded excited but also stressed in a way I recognized immediately. He started talking about needing more space in the house and figuring out room arrangements for the new baby. then casually mentioned the older kids would share from now on. I literally just stared at him for a second because I genuinely thought maybe I heard him wrong. But nope. After an entire year of acting like room sharing between siblings was impossible and cruel and impractical, suddenly it became completely reasonable once I wasn't living there anymore. The funniest part is the kids themselves apparently wanted it. The older girl decorated one side with fairy lights, and the younger one put dinosaur posters everywhere. According to my dad, they actually like sharing because they stay up talking at night. So yeah, I guess it wasn't too much work after all. That realization weirdly hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted to move back by then. I absolutely didn't. But because it confirmed what I already kind of knew deep down. The original problem was never logistics. If they genuinely wanted me there comfortably, they would have figured something out from the beginning. Instead, it felt like Hannah wanted her kids prioritized immediately, and my dad went along with it because keeping peace in his new relationship mattered more than keeping things fair with me. I don't think my dad fully realizes how much damage that caused long term. We still talk sometimes, but it's different now.
Careful almost.
We avoid certain topics because they always lead to tension. He asks about school, friends, college plans. I answer. Sometimes we joke around like old times for a few minutes and then it fades again. There's just distance there now that didn't exist before. Meanwhile, my life at my mom's house is honestly good. Like, genuinely good. I joined clubs at school this year, started driving lessons, and made closer friends because I'm actually around consistently now instead of bouncing between houses constantly. My mom and I got really close too. Before all this happened, I never realized how much I missed living with her full time. The funniest part is she still gets angry on my behalf sometimes. When she found out the older kids were sharing a room, now she literally laughed for like 2 straight minutes before saying, "Interesting how impossible solutions become possible later." My dad did try apologizing once. Not fully. More like a half apology where he admitted maybe they handled the transition badly. But even then he still framed it like everyone was just stressed and trying their best. Maybe that's true. But it doesn't really change how everything played out. Anyway, I still live with my mom and I love it here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update.